And we're back. Part 10, moving right along. So we just discussed Bill's possible non existent infidelities. Um, I don't know, man. Moving right along. So he wrote, we're on Mrs. Voss, Vossaholic. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, just jumping on this, we're on part 10. We've covered the doctor's opinion. My sobriety date's the 20th of April, 2015. I've had 5 rodeos. The sobriety date, well, I don't even remember that one. I had 2 years before the 5 years, and I had almost 9 years. My sobriety date back then was October 6th, 04. And I had a couple onesies, and my first sobriety date was 5/25/99. Um, yeah. I got a year sober, and my best friend from AA, Jim Schofield, Smelly James from the Howard Stern Show, killed himself. I stayed sober through that, and when I was living in Venice Beach, and I wanted a drink. I was walking, going, I could just get a bottle, and this would all go away. But I knew, like, play the record through. It's tough to reflect on that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're doing Bill's story. We're a few pages in. We're on page 3, last paragraph. What I'm doing is I've asked my sponsees to read through and on three notes, underline, highlight, and write notes on where they related to Bill's story and how he felt, the thoughts he had, and the actions he took. And so the last one was about he lived with his wife at this apartment, and I think he's sort of sarcastic. He called it a sumptuous apartment. He said there were many unhappy scenes in our sumptuous apartment. So maybe he had a real high rise apartment in New York City. He was balling and did have a sumptuous apartment, but he was probably bringing women home and then realizing, oh shit, I'm married, and then maybe he just drank himself to sleep because it said extreme drunkenness. So it's up for grabs. But moving on, in 1929, I contracted golf fever. So Bill decides to get a sober hobby. Let's talk about sober hobbies, my loves. You guys are my children. I love you. Okay, you guys are my everything. Okay, you guys keep me sober. All right. I got a little fluffy there. I got a little too emotional, but I love you guys because you keep me sober. Okay? I can't do this without you. So, a sober hobby. So, I was uh, I was going to a meeting in the Pacific Palisades at 7 a.m. every day, and there was a guy there who was sober a long time, and you could tell he always got a lot of respect. And he was really sharp. And he was actually my neighbor a few blocks over, and we'll just call him King Arthur. And this guy said, "Hey man, we swim in the master swim class at the YMCA. Me and Bruce. We can get you a scholarship. You'll pay half of your membership, and it's on a half year or a year. So it won't be too much money, and it'll allow you a free pass to have a swim coach. They'll teach you how to swim properly, and sometimes we do tournaments. We do this after the meeting. We go get coffee, and then we go swimming for an hour. You want to come with?" I looked at things. I mean, I was practically homeless again. I was sleeping in the back of my pickup truck. I spent $600 for a shell cab. I got a little scrappy dog I adopted to keep for protection, and I swam to learn how to swim better to do triathlons as like bucket list stuff. And he was like, "This is a sober hobby of mine. I have things that I've never done that I don't have triggers to." So me, I love smoking weed and playing basketball at UCLA with the brothers, the homies, a lot of Asians, good scrappers, good ballers, phenomenal dudes. Okay, the Asians were tough. I mean, they took out my ankles as a big man. Freaking kids. Anyways, I relate to this because, and give it to you and feel it from Bill because it's kind of funny. I mean, he got obsessed with golf. Like, golf is going to be his thing. He's going to replace his alcoholic time drinking with golf. Mine was the master swim class, then Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for many years, and then archery currently, and also now chess and hiking. Really big in my life. Painting. I love painting stuff like furniture and making furniture. Painting actual paintings. Good stuff. We went at once to the country, my wife to applaud while I started out to overtake Walter Hagen. So it sounds like Bill sort of maybe got into a scrap with his wife. Like, why are you bringing these damn women home? You're married. And it sounds like he said we went at once to the country. So it sounds like Bill's like, I can't live this crazy city, high life, wild lifestyle, drinking every night in jazz clubs. I'm going to move out to the country. I'm going to get sober. Kind of like the Johnny Cash movie. He went out to the family cabin to chill out. And then he kind of jokes about his wife supporting him. And he's kind of chuckling, like, to take over, to beat a professional golfer. Like, that's funny. Liquor caught up with me much faster than I came up behind Walter. Okay, so Bill's best thinking decides he's going to take on golf and go live out in the country, probably a nice house by a country club. But country clubs, man, they drink a lot there. There's always booze flowing. I began to be jittery in the morning. Okay, so Bill is now having the shakes. He's now physiologically probably addicted to alcohol. This minute, we're at 7 minutes. I'm going to go probably 20. I'm losing battery power. It's getting late. I need to wind down. So it says golf permitted drinking. Of course it did, right? I can relate to that. I just mentioned it. Every day and every night. You think? I mean, I worked at Bel Air Country Club and Brentwood. Brentwood was mainly rich Jewish guys, and Bel Air was sort of like old, stuffy, blue blood men of English descent, literally. There were some rich Jewish people there. And they were bomb.com. One of them I just adore. He's worth like $900 million. Guy wanted to hire me. I already talked about that. So moving along, I relate to that every day and every night. I mean, look, I go to the caddy shack at 5 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. Doors open. They don't ever lock the door. You got caddies there that have been up all night drinking, that are on benders, that sleep in the heat of the day close to blackout because they're caddying while wasted on alcohol and smoked out on weed. You arrive and you can smoke a bone, 5 in the morning. I mean, you're just getting up. You don't want to smoke a bone. But if you're there for 2 hours, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you're not out yet. Beer and a bone is not bad. And that's how I lived. And then at night, it's like, well, it's party night, right? I made a bunch of money. This was funny. I did this. I'm playing cards. I'm winning at poker. It was like the original Pinocchio from the 70s. It's just a land of bad kids, all immature. It was fun to carom around the exclusive course which had inspired such awe in me as a lad. Sounds like Bill was aware of a favorite golf course, maybe out just on the outskirts of the city. He grew up in Vermont. Maybe he read the paper every time there was a tournament there, and I can relate to exclusive course. Like Bel Air was exclusive. Governors, Hollywood elite directors, executive directors, executive producers. I acquired the impeccable coat of tan one sees upon a well-to-do. So Bill is balling. He's probably looking for clients on the golf course. He's trying not to drink. He's super tan. And he sort of made it, but he can't stop drinking. And he's sort of an elitist now. And The local banker watched me whirl fat checks in and out of his till with amused skepticism. So he's putting fat checks in, and then he's taking fat checks out. So maybe Bill is taking out big lumps of money to invest in his own little ingenious equations that he figures out on companies. We're at page 4. The phone is kind of doing this like weird throbbing energy thing, and I got a 10% warning a few minutes ago. So if this closes out shorter than 30 minutes, then it is what it is, you know. This is for us, me and you. Abruptly in October, we're on page 4. Abruptly in October 1929, hell broke loose on the New York Stock Exchange. After one of those days of inferno, I wobbled from a hotel bar to a brokerage office. The ticker still clattered. Oh, sorry. It was 8 o'clock, 5 hours after the market closed. The ticker still clattered. I was staring at an inch of the tape, which bore the inscription XYZ32. It had been 52 that morning. So maybe it went down 20 points, 32.52, but I was finished, and so were many friends. Okay, so maybe the stock was high in the morning, and I think maybe the ticker still clattering means that the tape after the close of the market was still reporting where the stages of the value of the stock was at. Kind of can't relate. I can relate from like being shitty drunk in a bar, stumbling. I was finished, and so were my friends. So I didn't sell stock and never blew, like, that's like Bernie Hoffman type stuff, like, or Bernie Madoff, excuse me, who basically tried to embezzle, I think, a lot of money, and he burned a lot of clients and took their life savings and their livelihood. They're like, he's pissed away their retirement. Yeah, the papers reported men jumping to death from the towers of high finance. I mentioned that earlier. Like, that reminds me of 9/11, seeing people, like, not want to burn up and jump to their death. That's sickening. I can't relate, but I've seen pictures of that, video of that. It's painful. He wrote, "That disgusted me. I would not jump. I went back to the bar. My friends had dropped several millions since 10 o'clock. So what? Tomorrow was another day. As I drank, the old fierce determination to win came back." All right, so Bill sort of I'm asking you to relate with his thoughts, feelings, and his actions. So yeah, what do? You go right to the bar. That's an action. In stress, celebration, depression, it's all go to the bar. Can relate. My friends dropped several million since 10 o'clock. So what? So back then it was a different deal. I don't have that. I can't relate to that at all. Tomorrow was another day. Like, sort of not caring and trying to turn the other cheek to what occurred. And saying F it, tomorrow's another day. I've been there. I've acted like that. To just bottle it and know it's painful and it's awful and it'll grow and poison you, but just brush it off like it's no big deal, sort of faking it. As I drank, the old fierce determination to win back came. So I don't know. He's a motivated guy. I I probably have been there, but I'm sort of gassing out. We're 15 minutes in. Next morning, I telephoned a friend in Montreal. He had plenty of money left and thought I had better go to Canada. By the following spring, we were living in our accustomed lifestyle. I felt like Napoleon returning from Elba. No St. Helena for me, but drinking caught up with me again, and my generous friend had to let me go. This time we stayed broke. So Bill jumped ship. Like, the ship's on fire. People are jumping to their death. Shark-infested waters. I mean, people are jumping off buildings um, because they don't want to be accountable to their clients who they've lost millions for. Can't really relate. I can relate to wanting to jump off a second-story balcony in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on the shady side when I had flown there. This is hard to say. From Los Angeles, after I had been in a friendship with a girl, I flew there to ask her to marry me, and I had a promise ring from Sedona, Arizona, and she said yes. She's the only woman I ever loved. Deeply, profoundly. I mean, I may seem calm, but underneath me is a lava volcano, just a towering inferno of passion. And I love that woman. And we, that night, waited for her friend. Friend never showed up till too late. The restaurant was closed. I just asked this woman to marry me. I was friends with her for 3 years. We only slept together twice. I was a gentleman. I loved her. And the friend sabotaged it. We went to a bar that night, and I was getting sharked by a pool shark, lying, manipulating dude. And it, there's other details. Ask me about that situation if you like. But it got uglier with the ex-boyfriend paying for drinks. And we all went back to his house. And we had frickin' barbecue chicken after being starved, not having food other than Subway. And we fought, and that day we were out on the back porch trying not to disturb one of our roommates. And I looked at the ground and I just wanted to jump. I would not jump. That's what Bill wrote. I would not jump. So Bill's like, I got a rich dude in Canada. I'm going to run the Canada Stock Exchange like a baller and be a boss. Oh, I'm drinking again. I mean, he's enthusiastic. I felt like Napoleon returning from Elba. So I don't know that war story. I guess Napoleon had a great win, maybe strategically. This is sort of how I want it to be, is that we're grinding through paragraphs, and I'm not going into my own personal dialogue, but my story and my alcoholism and my nuggets and wisdom tidbits are to me going to be helpful for you, and this is something to always kind of refer back to. So we're on the bottom of page 4, last paragraph. I think the phone's going to die. Just forewarning. We went to live with my wife's parents. So Bill was a baller. Several remaking over situations in his life. I'm going to conquer again after defeat. He said we stayed broke for a while. I had to go move in with his mom's parents. I found a job, then lost it as the result of a brawl with a taxi driver. So he got into an argument and then a physical fight with a taxi driver trying to get to work. I mean, he was probably white-knuckling it, and that's a real thing. And look, he didn't have a program. Be grateful you have a program. You have a place to go. You have a Zoom channel to go on to hear the message. You have YouTube to listen to speakers. You have iTunes to find speakers. You have tapes that you can buy off of eBay of AA speakers, cassette tapes. Bill was with his wife's parents, who probably hated him after he dragged their daughter halfway around the East Coast in a sidecar of a motorcycle. I mean, he was probably a ball of freaking anger. He lost it as a result of a brawl with a taxi driver. I can only imagine that he was probably on his way to work and was complaining about the driving or trying to control the guy to get there faster. And the guy probably gave him flack, and he went off on him because he's big egomaniac. Here's one for you. An egomaniac with an inferiority complex. And that'll go totally the opposite after years of sobriety, where you don't even have any ego and you have supreme confidence and quiet confidence, where you're not incredibly insecure with a huge ego. Mercifully, no one could guess that I was to have no real employment for 5 years. So this is the turning of the corner, I'd say, for Bill. Bill was like, I'm going to go live in the countryside and play golf and stay sober there. Not happening. The boom hit. His friends were losing millions. He left the country. Look, you burn clients. The only way you get them to spend that much money, like millions, is you probably got to butter them up, get really close to them like friends, and then they'll invest with you. So he goes to Canada, and then he does the same fuck show there and probably burns money up on this guy with bad investments, and he's drinking again, which you can't trust a drinker for investing your money. 5 years, no employment, or hardly draw a sober breath. So Bill is living off of his mom's parents for 5 years. He's probably trying to work shitty job after shitty job. He'd already been jittery, which means that he's got the alcoholic seizure possibilities. Like alcoholics, if they become alcoholic dependent, they have the shakes, and you can die if you don't drink alcohol. You have to wean people with beer off the vodka, off the heavy stuff, if they have the shakes, or have a nurse present who can administer an IV to flush out. It's serious. You can die from alcoholic doldrums, they're called. My wife began to work in a department store, coming home exhausted to find me drunk. So it sounds like Bill's hitting his bottom. Like, you're on your mother-in-law's couch. Your wife hates you. She's got to bring home the bacon. Back then, that's not what you did. Men were very much the breadwinners. It was a male-dominated patriarchal society. So Mama's bringing home the bacon. His wife is working. And he's pathetically drunk and not holding a job for 5 years. No real employment. So he's probably working like for food money with free room and board for 5 years. I became an unwelcome hanger-on at the brokerage places. So he's not welcome at his places of business. So he sort of lost his career with his stock market stuff. Liquor ceased being a luxury. It became a necessity. So he's chemically dependent on ethanol, which is what alcohol is made from. It's called ethanol. Bathtub gin, I mentioned that earlier. 2 bottles a day, and often 3 got to be routine. So my conception of bathtub gin is they had drinking houses called speakeasies, and an old Indian guy who had like a government pension and like an Air Force pension, he used to tell me about speakeasies back through the 20s and 40s. It's basically similar to like a moonshiner. You're making your own alcohol and selling it, and it's random, and it's out of a frickin' bathtub, which, 2 bottles a day and often 3 got to be routine. So when alcohol becomes a necessity, it's either don't drink and you want to fight everybody and taxi drivers and shit, or you have the shakes. You need the alcohol so bad, or you'll shake all day violently. Can't walk, can't function. He's heavily chemically dependent. That's when you need, in this day and age, treatment. Sometimes a real deal would net a few $100s. So he's trying to broker deals still. I would I would pay my bills at the bars and delicatessens. So he's turning into Wimpy from Popeye. I will surely pay you tomorrow for a hamburger today. So he's building up tabs at delis to eat on the daily and tabs with bars going in to drink because he's got the big ego still. He needs to drink outside of his mother-in-law's family house. This went on endlessly, and I began to waken very early in the morning, shaking violently. There you have it. A tumbler full of gin, followed by half a dozen bottles of beer, would be required if I were to eat any breakfast. So look, I'm afraid of the grid going down with an EPM or whatever it's called, electronic pulse burst, and our grid goes down. You're still going to have alcoholics. They're still going to make jungle juice that they make in jails, which is from fermented oranges and different fruits. You know, they call it hooch. Even if we went back to a primitive society after like apocalyptic war, you're still going to have alcoholics. And if they get to a place where they're dependent on hard, high percentage alcohol like vodka, gin, whiskey, those things, you have to wean them off with beer. You have to wean them off with lighter alcohol slowly, or they'll die for reals. Okay, moving along. A tumbler full of gin followed by half a dozen bottles of beer. So he's drinking a six-pack after a bottle of gin would be required if I were to eat any breakfast. So he had to drink to eat breakfast. Haven't ever been there. Can't really relate to that. I know that I would like to drink without food because it would give me a better buzz longer. It's basically like you're fasting on beer, which is pathetic and horrific. Nevertheless, I still thought I could control the situation. Yeah, control drinking, right? And there were periods of sobriety which renewed my wife's hope. His wife is like a saint. She's Mother Teresa. She's got so much love for him, and she saw him at his best, and she probably was the high school sweetheart. Gradually, things got worse, no doubt. The house was taken over by the mortgage holder. My mother-in-law died. My wife and my father-in-law became ill. So it sounds like the reason why they let Bill stay there possibly was that they needed him to be an income earner. And I don't know if back then they had Social Security for older people. And I don't think that Lois's parents may have bought investment real estate properties where they had a sort of a pipeline of renters paying their mortgages and then they're just cash cow property investments. So also depression hits when a beloved mother dies and the husband is left alone. Usually men die before the female. And when you become depressed, you're not eating right. I mean, it said became ill, so they could have become ill from other things too. Different things that went around. Spanish flu, typhoid fever, I don't know. Then I got a promising business opportunity. Stocks were at the low point of 1932, and I had somehow formed a group to buy. I was to share generously in the profits. Then I went to a prodigious bend. Then I went on a prodigious bender, and that chance vanished. So that was talked about and referenced, I think, in like part 2 or 3, where it was mentioned that in his stay at like one of the hospitals, I think it was probably Bill, where he had a deal lined up. It had a deadline. You had to just sign for it. It was a done deal, big payday. And what big real estate deals are called is syndication. It's like there's several parts of the pie. You get this percentage, the main shareholders get this percentage. And so Bill was trying to piece together his old days. He found a good stock. It was low, buy low, sell high. And then he got freaking drunk. We're at 30 minutes. I kind of don't want to end this. This is like how hard he's going. He's going hard into his bottom. So I'm going to let this phone gas out. Maybe we'll do 40 minutes. Sorry. So Bill writes, for the prodigious spender, I woke up. This had to be stopped. I saw I could not take so much as one drink. I was through forever. Okay. This is reminding me of the ad infinitum, swearing off alcohol forever, taking an oath and not taking an oath, that sort of thing. That's probably why he wrote that, from his own experiences. So he's like, I'm signing off from alcohol forever. This is it. I mean, he sort of also like got to be the guy. He's got to be the hero type in his groups. You know, father-in-law is mourning the wife. His wife, Bill's wife, is Lois is mourning her mother, and he's got a big deal of money to save the house because the mortgage holder's gonna foreclose on the home, and he needs to follow through on this deal or they're gonna lose the house. Heavy drama. Before then, I had written lots of sweet promises, but my wife happily observed that this time I meant business. And so I did. Good for you, Bill. I mean, profound. It took forever, though. Shortly after I came home drunk, there had been no fight. Where had been my high resolve? I simply didn't know. It hadn't even come to mind. Someone had pushed a drink my way, and I had taken it. Was I crazy? I began to wonder, for such an appalling lack of perspective seemed near being just that. Renewing my resolve, I tried again. So hey, guess what? I got an iPad. I'm going to record on that. All right, we're at the end of page 5. Good place to stop. It reads, some time passed and confidence. Oh, that's a long one. I'm going to start it on the next one. We're 33 minutes ending. Thank you for your time. Don't drink, go to meetings.